Yep, we are. We're back with episode 6 of Left, Right, and Local. Tonight's episode, The Quiet Majority. We are going to dive into voter apathy, both in the booth and before they even get off the sofa. Before we do that, we have to, unfortunately, deal with what happened yesterday.
Yes.
We did not get the result that we were hoping for in this election. Krista, what do you have?
Well, I'm going to say no, we did not get the result, but I want to start off with some good news.
Oh, I like it.
So we have 2 big wins. The first win is we have our first paid subscriber.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Shout out to Pamela in California. Thank you very much for that.
And the second win is sort of 3 in 1. We had one of our listeners in Santee give us a little feedback. And I'm not going to repeat that feedback because
That person made me sound like a saint in terms of the curse word.
Right.
These were new words.
Yeah. And I'm not going to relay those messages because they are not family friendly. And Tim and I have agreed that we should try to keep things nice and clean. But what I am going to say to you, sir or ma'am, who is from Santee, South Carolina, who gave us 3 lovely comments this evening, just thank you so much for your listenership. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We want to be engaged with everyone, regardless of whether they like us or not. The truth is that no matter how colorful the language, we're just happy to be engaged with you. You don't need to like us, but we do want to have you engaged. So anyone who has something to say, we welcome all comers.
Say it. Yep.
With that in mind, let's talk a little bit about, I have some notes here.
Yes.
On the devastation from yesterday. Really, we just came to terms with the fact that LRL had spoken. The ballots were counted last night. Kelly Ulmer will be the next mayor of LRL, South Carolina, assuming that he makes it to be seated. This is the same Kelly Ulmer with a criminal record a mile long, the same Kelly Ulmer that's facing or has faced 2 lawsuits, one that was settled and one that
is pending.
And that one's a biggie. That's the one from David Martin, the former police chief of LRE, who is alleging the theft and fraud and abuse of public trust. So,
yes,
among other things. So the question really tonight is, how did this happen? How did someone with that kind of baggage win?
So I've spoken to voters, many of our voters here in LRE. Before the election and today, my phone was ringing off the hook, starting at 7:25 this morning, off the hook, and had several calls and text messages last night. And what I'm hearing is they voted for a name. They voted because Kelly said, I'm a changed man. And yes, I have a checkered past, but I've changed. My question to that, of course, is, have you really changed that much over the last 6 months? Because I don't see it. But, hey, he won. I get it. We've got the possibility of 4 years with him in the seat. Our hope at this point is that something does come through with the lawsuit and that he is maybe de-seated, which would be a blessing to LRE as far as we're concerned. But that's my opinion. That's your opinion.
That is my opinion. I'd like to see him de-seated. I'd like to see him de-seated before he gets seated.
Yeah.
That'd be ideal.
It's interesting because not only is it our opinion, but we had about 100 folks that voted for Barbara and Alan. So it's apparently their opinion too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were enough people out there in the community who voted for change, but they did it between 2 candidates.
Yeah.
And that also you have to remember that you take one of those candidates out, invariably some of those votes are going to go to Kelly.
Absolutely.
And you have no way of knowing whether that would have made the difference. The truth of the matter is you had 3 candidates. Kelly prevailed. He got the most votes. I think it's reasonable to ask the question, how? Because there's just so much negativity out in the ether about this guy. For me, of course, I've experienced him firsthand. I know exactly who this person is. He's definitely not changed. He's absolutely problematic. Whether or not he's committed the crimes while he's been a member of the community and a member of town hall as a councilman, I can only speak to what he's done with me, what I accused him of, and what the lawsuit that was settled, what it claimed. That included, by the way, conspiracy and some other charges of significance. That said, I can't speak to David's charges. I can't
Right.
speak
We're
to.
not, I don't think at this point we are going to talk too much about that lawsuit because it is still very active.
Yeah,
And
yes, it's certainly not something that we want to undermine in any way. So I think it's the
exactly,
right thing to do is
exactly.
at this time is to stay away from it. But that said, I do want to get back into this discussion of when voters reject the idea of someone being bad for the community as a candidate, in this sense, the mayor. Of course, that's going to be for different reasons. Some people are going to reject the idea because they think they know him or they do know him. He's a member of the family, or he's been a lifelong friend, or you went to school with him, or whatever it is. So, plenty of people are going to have reason to believe in him and have faith in him, and that's absolutely reasonable. But I'm speaking to the likely majority who, of course, in a small town, we tend to know who we're talking about because you see
Right.
those people, right? But there's still going to be a significant number of people who know him only at an arm's length. And my question really centers around them, which is if you're hearing and seeing, which you should be, because if you're hearing this stuff, you should be toggling over to the public index and seeing some of these things that we've talked about. If you're hearing and seeing and learning of these things, and you have a candidate around whom doubts are swirling like an MFer, and you vote for him anyway, that's apathy. The other question then becomes could this problem have been solved, or could something that we perceive as a problem, could it have been solved by more voters coming out to vote? Of course, that remains a question. In Ellery, we have 500 registered voters.
Right.
150 or so came out and voted, very similar to the last mayoral.
We actually had a few more come out this time. I think we were closer to that 200, maybe even a little higher. Yes.
So that's
Yes.
pretty good compared to last year.
Yes. It
It's an
is.
improvement.
It is an improvement. It is
Yet still, it's probably what, one third.
probably.
Okay.
Yes. And we have to look at the statistics from the state races last November, a year ago. So in Orangeburg County had about, I think it was about 27%, somewhere between 25 and 30. So let's just say about 27% of our Republican voters didn't even show up to vote. And here's what I heard before and after that election.
Mhm.
Our votes don't matter. We are forgotten in Orangeburg County. We are ignored in Orangeburg County. And when you continue to vote for the same people, the same platforms, when you continue to vote that way, you're going to continue to be ignored and forgotten. The change starts with the voter.
You know, in my notes here, I have this little note about how cynicism has roots, really deep roots in a small town, and that it's the this sort of resistance to the idea of getting out and voting. It's not laziness. It's fatigue.
Yeah. The political world from top all the way down has fatigued our voters.
And you think that fatigue that we see on a larger stage when we look at it at the state or the federal level, do you see that same sort of affliction here in a small town, or is it different in a small town?
No, I think it's the same. And the best way that I can explain that is the voters don't feel respected. So why are they going to come out and show their respect to the candidates?
Wow. And how do you get around that? How do you surmount
You
that?
have to start electing the right people. You have to start electing.
But you're talking
who-
about you're skipping ahead of the problem. How do you elect them if you can't get the voters out?
I don't know. That's a problem.
That's a problem you need to solve.
It is a problem, and I will tell you that perhaps it starts with the voter. We've talked about over the last couple of episodes that engagement is key. When you go into a town council meeting and you walk into the room, let's just take LRE for example. We have 500, about 600 people that live within the town limits of LRE. When you walk into that town hall on the second Monday of every month at 5:30, and you walk into that town hall and you go in to sit down, it's like a funeral home. I mean, it's like there's no activity. There might be 15 to 20 people in the audience, and there's absolutely no engagement whatsoever.
Now, I want to make a point here because I read in our preparations for this episode a statistic. It said that, like, on average, that in small town America, across the United States, this is in particular in small town elections, it's very common to have very few come out to vote.
Yes, it is.
So, whereas, for instance, I mean, just look at my voter turnout.
Yep.
It's in small town elections. It's very often microscopic, sometimes 25%, but sometimes 15%. And the irony is that that's exactly the size of the margin that can decide a mayor or a police chief or a town budget or what have you. The cynicism gives power to the few who do vote. And very often, those are the same entrenched networks that benefit from staying in control. That is a killer.
It is a killer. It is a killer. The folks that typically come out to vote are the ones that are going to vote to keep the same people in the seat anyway.
So it's, in a way, getting back to the funeral home theme, it's the death of the vote, right?
It is.
And so rebuilding trust one vote at a time, does that sound too much like a promotional headline? Is it doable? Do you think that, here's what I'm saying. If I don't really have trust in or faith that my vote's going to change something, there is that idea that, it doesn't matter who's in control. It never affects how my life works day to day. And I don't see change. All they do is fight amongst each other.
Yeah.
But this is in a way, this was an apolitical election, because that's not a political.
No, it's not. Every state is nonpartisan.
Exactly. It's the politics of it really shouldn't play too much into it, Republican versus Democrat. Of course, that person's manifesto may sing to you or not, but let's be honest. Did Kelly really come out and tell you which side of one issue or another he was on?
No. And I just want to bring this up too. So out of the messages that I received today, many of them were, what's the point? The corruption will continue. It's been going on for years. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter who we vote for. The corruption is going to continue in the town of LRE. And it's not just the town of LRE. It is small towns across our nation.
Yeah.
So the complicity, it has to stop. It has to stop.
What do you mean complicity? You mean
everyone just is complacent. They live their lives. They go to the grocery store. They hang out with your
I see what you're saying. You're saying complacency, the complacency. I'd like to see us all of us, take greater measures, hold ourselves to a higher standard when it comes to informing ourselves about the choices for our public servants and the role we play in installing them. And that includes holding ourselves accountable to get out
and don't be complacent in your life. Don't just think that, well, I'm just going to sit at home and I'm going to skip the town, or I'm going to go to the ball game. I'm not going to take the 30 minutes and go to the town council meeting. I'm not going to take the 30 minutes and, ask the question I'm not going to send that email because I just don't have time today. I'm not going to ask that question of the mayor because you know what? I really just don't want to, I just don't want to rock the boat. We have to rock the boat. It's our responsibility. It's our civil duty to rock the boat.
So do you think that the pillars of what makes a vote an informed one is about, stemming from the civic responsibility? Or do you agree with this assertion of mine that it starts with curiosity?
With me, it started with curiosity.
Right. Curiosity is, I know it's what killed the cat, but it's maybe what saved the voter.
Yes.
By the way, death is a theme in this episode for some reason. Going back to your comment about the funeral, you could swing a dead cat and hit, 10 people on the street of this little town who didn't vote.
If I had 10 people standing in front of me right now, I can guarantee you that 8 of them didn't vote. They just didn't show up. We'll be right back if no one shuts us down first.
Looking for something timeless? At Archaic, we bring history back to life with antique and vintage furnishings, plus made-to-order farmhouse furniture built to last for generations. Step away from mass-produced. Step into Archaic. Find us at archaicmodern.com.
Now that we've paid the bills, we can start chatting again.
And we actually paid them ourselves because it's our commercials.
Right, right.
Yeah. I look forward to the day where somebody else is doing that.
That's right. Me too. By the way, you guys can't advertise. All you got to do is email us.
Oh, yeah. Where do they email us?
at info@leftrightlocal.com.
Okay, so we're back. We took a short break there, and you said something really important.
So at this point, rather than focus on the voter, because I think we've talked about the voter and the voter's responsibility, it's important that we talk about what the candidate's responsibility is.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, and it's important for us to mention it, that where Kelly is concerned, this discussion that we just had around voter apathy is taking away from him some of what he accomplished.
I give kudos to Kelly.
Because, well, what he did was he knocked on doors, he made phone calls, he was out and about, he did the work. And definitely he seemed to do that more than any other candidate. And you got to take your hat off to that because that's the job, that's the work when you're campaigning.
That's exactly right.
Now, you did mention that there is this idea around the candidates themselves going out to the voter, not necessarily bringing the voter to them. I think certainly if you have functions, you have some kind of event here or there in the process of campaigning where you bring the voter out to a central area and many people get to hear you at one time, that's great. But knocking on doors like Kelly
And
did,
making phone calls. I'll tell you, Tim, when I ran for state house, I ran a very strong campaign. And it was obvious that I ran a strong campaign because historically, this position, the seat, the House of Representatives seat for our district, typically there's been an average of about a 36% gap between the winner and the loser. And typically the seat is taken by a Democrat, which it was this time as well.
And you knew that before you campaigned.
I knew that before I campaigned. I did my research. I knew what my voters looked like. I knew my demographics. And when I campaigned to the folks that were not strong Republicans. They were weak Republicans, swing voters, and very weak Democrats. So you focus on those people. And in my campaign, even though I lost, I don't look at it as a loss. I look at it as a huge win for our area because there was a shift. Rather than a 36% difference between the Democrat and the Republican, I closed that gap to just under 5%. And it's because I was in the public. I went to every event. We were gone almost every single night. And as a candidate, just like Kelly did, you have to get in front of your constituency.
I think that Alan did so in the digital realm very well. I think his online presence and what he had done with the website and putting all the information he did out,
That's right.
a lot of videos. I think he did a great job there. But there's a huge difference in seeing somebody on your phone screen or your computer screen versus actually having them knock on your door, take the time to come and introduce themselves house by house, one by one. That goes a long way, especially in a small town.
Right. And I know that Alan did do some door knocking.
Not to the length that Kelly.
No. And I will tell you that many of the messages that I received late last night and early this morning said that. No one came and knocked on my door.
So you're getting into something here, which is we're talking now. We've shifted to the idea that how much of this responsibility of what we talked about earlier, voter disengagement, we'll call it, falls squarely on the candidate themselves.
Many times it does.
It's always going to be a combination, a confluence of things. So maybe there should be not just voter education, but candidate education.
Well, and I'll tell you that during my campaign, I spent a lot of money on training, classes, seminars, and also, I had a campaign manager, and that campaign manager was on my butt all the time. How many phone calls did you make? How many doors did you knock on? Who did you talk to today? Did you follow up with the person that you spoke with last week? Did you, it was constant and it was tiring, exhausting on the candidate and exhausting on the family.
That may be how you know you're doing it right.
Yes. And a lot of times in small towns, especially in LRE, it is a little easier to have the voter engagement and to get out in the streets.
For us, the story is not over. I would say it's harder now in some respects, but I would argue that because it's harder, it's more important.
I do.
To everyone who's listening or watching or both, whether you're in a small town or a big city, I think you have an obligation to yourself to take stock of your community. We need to learn about those who represent us or who want to represent us. Here's one thing that I can recommend to the voters. If the candidate is not getting in your face, you get in their face. Right. And if you have not been to the state house in Columbia, go sit in on their sessions. That's where you learn how to be a good citizen, a good voter, and an informed voter. And I think that's the biggest issue that we have right now is our voters are uninformed and our candidates, our representatives, our legislators don't do a good job with keeping us engaged, keeping us informed. And we need to remember that politics is not just during the election cycle. Politics, political rhetoric, left, right, local, doesn't matter. It's all year. Yeah. And you have to, it doesn't happen when the state house is in session or the federal government is in session. It is all year. And if you let your guard down, corruption can slip in. Let's think of a scenario in here where you and I are wrong about Kelly's intentions and wrong about what his mayoralship is going to look like. I hope that we are. Yeah, I was just going to say that's my hope too. Yes. And so his family is entrenched in the community and has been for a long time. And of what we know of him, looking at it from the opposite of a cynical view, but looking at it rather positively, what do you hope you see in Kelly's time as mayor? First of all, he needs to surmount these charges that have been leveled in this latest lawsuit because some of those things are truly criminal. They are. Not all of that criminality, of course, that's detailed there falls upon Kelly. There are other defendants in the case. So he has to, though, surmount that because that may well prevent him from holding his seat. But let's say that he does surmount that. What are you hoping comes from his mayoralship? What I would like to see out of any mayor of Ellery, and this is something that I wanted to bring to the table when I ran, and if I was elected, I would have. I would like to see the mayor truly engage the citizens, be at the events, allow freedom of speech at our town hall meetings, and at least have a town hall, if not monthly, quarterly, so that the citizens can come in and freely talk without submitting, right, right, and getting it approved and only having 3 minutes. And when you limit your citizens to a 3-minute conversation, and it's not a conversation because the town representatives, the town officials typically won't answer the questions. If the citizen comes up and speaks for those 3 minutes, a lot of times the questions are not answered. They take it back and then they discuss it, and they may bring it back at the next meeting. They may not. We have a lot of talented people here in Ellery with a lot of great ideas. They don't come to the table with those ideas because they don't feel like they're being listened to. And my hope is that Kelly will open the ears, open his eyes, and listen to all the people, not just a select few. Take what the citizens of Ellery have to say, take their concerns, and truly work to bring Ellery back to what she once was. And how likely do you think it is that Kelly will actually turn out to be the guy we think he's going to be, which is to cover up past misdeeds at town hall? I could be proven wrong, but this guy has done a hell of a lot more, even with all the door knocking and the effective campaign that he may have run. He's done a lot more to demonstrate the bad that he's capable of versus the good, in my opinion. In other words, I'm not expecting him to do anything other than to protect his friends, those who came before him, and to shroud again in secrecy the things that they've done and will do going forward. I hope that I'm wrong, but I've had no indication to expect anything different. So today, I feel the same way that you do. Ask me again in 6 months and let's see where we are. Mm-hmm. You think it'll take 6 months for a lot of these chickens to come home to roost? I think it'll take less. I think that we're going to know very quickly where his heart is. And do you think that the prediction that I made, I think in the last episode, that if he wins, someone like, for instance, Earl Kinley will resign, will retire.
Earl is eligible to retire.
Think he will?
I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he will.
That's going to be a shame.
It is going to be a shame. It'll be a shame for Ellery. I hope that Earl will stick around. We need someone like Earl to unite the community.
Kelly, you said in part ran on the idea of changing the police department. We don't quite know how. You think there's any chance in hell he'll try to bring back Murph the Smurf?
Maybe.
Really?
Maybe. I think it would be political suicide. I think there are a lot of people here in Ellery who still support Sean Murphy and don't believe that Sean did what he did. Which
thing that he did? Because he's done
so much.
Right, so which of those that he did not do?
They don't believe that he vandalized the vehicle in the Orangeburg County.
Did it? I've seen the video.
Saw the video. Sean is a whole different ball game here. It will be a horrible situation for many people in Ellery. And if
Here's what I think. I don't think
back, it'll be political.
I don't think he can bring him back. I don't think Sean's employable. I don't think with Sean's record, with the fact that he's in the NCICS system, having an order of protection against him, I don't think that a guy who's been pinned down with as many accusations, and there's proof out there in video and so forth. So some of the stuff he's gotten in trouble for and the things that have been pointed at him, I don't think it's possible to bring him back. I want to shift gears as we wrap it up to talk about what our next episode is going to be about.
We are taking 3 South Carolina police officers who have been terminated on questionable behavior. One of those is Sean Murphy. And then we're going to dive into the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy.
That's right. We're going to talk
procedures.
Yeah. And we're going to discuss a little bit about how we understand that it currently works and discuss some ideas we have for maybe reform to make it work a little better. And just to be specific, we're really talking about the SCCJA's role in public safety, the commitment that we feel they must make to the wellness and safety of every member of the society they serve. And here's the thing, they already think they're doing that. You know, it's part of the oath that an officer takes. But this goes way beyond an officer taking an oath. It goes beyond the education they think they're bestowing upon an officer. There really is no way to know if the good work you've done in the education process is working until you keep a close eye on each and every one of those individual officers you've certified. And my contention there is going to be that somewhere along the chain of reporting, how an officer's behavior gets reported to the SCCJA, there are a lot of loopholes in which that person can hide the truths of their record and move right on, just roll that barrel on down the street to the next little municipality where you can get another job, and where that reporting can escape the knowledge of SCCJA because of the nature of how they rely upon being reported to. But we're going to make a case for that in our next episode. I'm pretty excited to do that.
Yes, and we're gonna reach out to Swindler is his name.
Yeah, I've had the chance to speak to him.
Yes, you've spoken with him a couple of times, and we're going to reach out to him, and we would love to have him on the show. Don't know if he will.
He's a big boy. I think he's going to look at our little endeavor here and probably, be too busy. But he's a big boy, big accomplished guy in law enforcement. But what I did find with him is that he was accessible and he did give me time, and he spoke with me for several minutes on multiple subjects. Sean Murphy was one of them, and his policing record was one of them. My inquiry was specific to how a guy can get decertified when part of the information that decertified him was the fact that he allegedly committed a sexual assault. How does that guy get a badge back at all? And Swindler told me that now that doesn't happen. Once you get decertified, you decertified, period. You're unhireable in the whole country. That's his position. I want to talk to him. I want to drill down on that a little bit with him. I want to go further. I'm hoping he'll give us the time. He may not, but we are going to ask. In fact, I think we've sent an email out to him and are waiting to hear a response if we're able to get together and get some questions answered. And it's genuine that I just want to understand from their perspective what they feel they're already doing to mitigate some of these risks.
Well, and it's interesting, Tim, because I had a conversation with one of the investigators at the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, and I was told that in order for an officer to be decertified, the last place of employment is the one that has to request that decertification, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because if an officer was terminated for bad behavior or forced to retire for bad behavior, how does, or if that officer has a personal relationship with the folks at town hall, which in many of the small towns, that is a very tight knit group of people. So if we have bad behavior and the municipality is the one that has to request that decertification, we, the citizens, are just kind of unprotected from these
And that's
police officers.
That's the breakdown, right? It's hey, rather than the teacher sending the kid to detention, let's ask the kid's best friend if he should go to detention or not. Let's wait to hear from him.
Right.
That's kind of what's going on here, perhaps. I need to make sure that I understand it correctly, as do you. I just think that somewhere along the line, I'm willing to bet that there's improvements that could be made to a system where those in charge, and make no mistake, the SCCJA is the body who issues the certifications, that puts them in charge. They're essentially putting their stamp of approval on an officer, sending them out into the world to police the community. And there's a reason that officer takes an oath, because the job is rife with opportunity to betray the public. And they're trying to hold them to a standard of accountability under stressful circumstances that rises above what you would ask of the average person, no doubt. But their job doesn't stop at stamp certification. Now wait to get the phone call.
Right.
It should be monitoring reports that come in once every 2 months, once every 3 months, quarterly, whatever. That's how it should work. They should be the proactive party in that relationship, who is reviewing that particular officer and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. Again, the metaphor I use is you shouldn't be asking the good friend or the good acquaintance or the guy who is at least in the same boat to then throw a man overboard. You're not going to get the truth. I think it befalls the SCCJA to change that policy if indeed what we're saying is true. And I'm going to make an example. My father, rest his soul, he was an airline captain for many, many years. And he had to take a check ride every 6 months or so to make sure that he's able to fulfill his duties as a pilot.
Right.
He's
protecting the lives of the people on his airplane. That just seems normal.
That's right. Now,
police are protecting the lives of the citizens of the area that they work in. So it just seems normal.
It is normal. They're people who have jobs of great responsibility need to be tested,
right.
need to be looked at,
right.
and need to be held accountable by the agencies who preside over them. So same thing in the SCCJ's case. We're going to get into that in this next episode.
And I have to tell you, I just want to say this to our listeners. You and I are very much pro law.
No, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
We value our law enforcement, and it's very sad when the small percentage of bad cops make the large percentage of good cops look bad.
I agree with you completely. Listen, I've donated on numerous occasions to police departments, most recently to the calendar that they were selling here in LRE when Officer Whetstone was here for the brief time she was. I am a supporter of the police, just like you said, but not when you're a criminal cop. All right. That's it. That's the end of this episode. We have come to the end. We're going to release you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And remember, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's Left, Right, and Local, or at Left, Right, and Local. On YouTube, you use the and. And on all the others, X and the talk, as my son calls it, TikTok. I don't know that that's a thing. That's not a thing. And then there's, what is the Facebook?
We got Facebook.
Hey, drop the. Isn't that what the dude said when they made that? Drop the. It's a good advice. So Facebook, Instagram,
Yes.
On the gram.
Our website, www.leftrightlocal.com.
You just need to say left, right, local.
Yeah.
www is so old school. That is dinosauric.
I know. It's
but I love it though.
Listen, I
It's
still
something
use
I would do.
calendar. It's okay.
You're using a paper
It's
calendar.
okay.
You're dropping the www. I'm surprised you don't say https // No, I love it. I love it. The point is just get there whether you enter the whole thing or not.
But send us
left,
your
right, local.
feedback. If you want to reach out to us, we are hello@leftrightlocal.com. And we want the good, bad, and the ugly. We want to know what you think. Listen, if you have stories that you want us to cover.